Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe for all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. According to my analytics, about 20% of my viewers are subscribers. So there's a whole 80% of you out there who haven't smashed that subscribe button yet. So please go ahead and do so. So today I'm talking to you about Strange New Worlds again. It's been about a couple of weeks since we first got the announcement that Strange New Worlds is hitting our screens next year. And I've been thinking more and more about this promise of exploration, the promise of seeking out strange new worlds and strange civilizations and strange new life. And I started to think, what alien races have we seen in original series, in Next Generation, DS9, and are races that we might come in contact with in Strange New Worlds? There's a few races we can't see because they've been established in canon as to when that first contact was, which is post Strange New Worlds. There are a lot of races out there that we haven't maybe either seen that much of, or that we have kind of almost been deprived of the first contact scenario with them. So today I'm going to have a look through the races of Star Trek and see what cultures, species, planets we might end up seeing first contact scenario with. So let's see how Strange New Worlds might seek out new life and new civilizations. Now for starters, let's take a look at the races we know due to establishment of prior episodes and stories that we can't really see in Strange New Worlds. And they would include the Borg, which obviously were first contacted in the Next Generation episode Q Who. We've got the Romulans, which weren't first contacted until Kirk came across them during his 5-year mission. There's the Ferengi, which we can't really see because they didn't make first contact with the Federation until I think there was that incident between Picard on the Stargazer with a Ferengi ship where he kind of came up with the Picard maneuver. That was the first contact with Ferengi, so we know we can't see them. The Klingons were also covered quite extensively in the first season of Discovery, and due to kind of, controversial points of opinion regarding their makeup.
Those Klingons were so bad.
We probably should kind of have a break from the Klingons for a little bit as well. So with that in mind, who could be the big bad, the threat, the antagonist in Strange New Worlds? There are certain races that kind of lend themselves to this. We know the Cardassians are a big presence in the Alpha Quadrant by the time of DS9, but we never really got to see a first contact scenario with them. They were kind of just a given. They sort of just came around. There was history going back to O'Brien on Setlik 3, I think, Massacre, I think it was. So they kind of established the Cardassians have kind of been around for a bit. Strange New Worlds might be a perfect opportunity to give us that first contact moment between the Federation and the Cardassians, and what that might look like. I know Akiva Goldsman and Alex Kurtzman have been desperate to bring the Gorn back, and Strange New Worlds would be a good opportunity to do this, but the thing I see as a potential problem with the Gorn is if you're going to bring the Gorn back, they'd almost need to be a 100% CG character. Because they're reptilian, they look like kind of dinosaurs or big lizard-headed aliens. They did attempt to do the Gorn in an episode of Enterprise, but the CG just didn't cut it back in those days, and it looked really hokey and fake. So if they were going to do them for the show, it would need to look top-notch. It would need to look amazing, photorealistic animation. And that's quite an expense for the production crew. I think to have them as a recurring enemy in the show, where you would have to CG their heads for every episode, could get pretty expensive. So my impression of the Gorn would be, yeah, it'd be great to see them, but I wouldn't anticipate us seeing them in any great extent beyond maybe a couple of episode appearances, just because of the expenses, what would be involved to get them looking pretty authentic. I think the Vulcans have pretty much been done to death. I think we've seen so many Vulcan stories over episodes. I think we could probably afford to back off on Vulcan stuff, unless, of course, they were deciding to bring in T'Pol from Enterprise. She's about the only character, maybe her and possibly Dr. Phlox, perhaps, are the only two characters that could potentially return in Strange New Worlds, because I think any human characters that were in Enterprise by the time of Strange New Worlds would be about 150 years old. So it kind of limits the ability to bring any of the human cast from Enterprise into Strange New Worlds. But as we know, Vulcans have double the lifespan of humans, and it would be quite feasible to bring T'Pol back into Strange New Worlds from her appearance as the first officer on board the Enterprise under Jonathan Archer. And it would be good to see Dr. Phlox as well. He was a very quirky character, and we don't know what the lifespan of DeNoble Ins are, and we kind of only saw DeNoble Ins in Enterprise as the Doctor. We never kind of saw too many other DeNoble Ins episodes, I don't think, in Enterprise that I recall, that gave a bit of backstory to this race. We know they're a bit of a hedonistic culture. They have multiple wives, multiple husbands. Delving into that would probably be interesting story to tell. Another interesting race that has never really been touched on to any great extent, and that's the Breen. The Breen were a bit of a threat. They ended up joining the Dominion as part of their involvement in the whole Dominion War on DS9. They're a very mysterious race, you know, with the whole helmet things, looking a bit like Princess Leia from Return of the Jedi in the bounty hunter disguise. And the Breen have always been described as a race from a very, very cold planet. Going by the shape of the helmets and masks that they wear makes me think like the Breen perhaps would appear like maybe walruses or polar bears, maybe seals, maybe some sort of seal, walrus, polar bear kind of alien looking hybrid.
Or perhaps they wear the mask for a different reason.
Oh, Breen is so cute.
Another good antagonistic race that'd be good to see in Strange New Worlds are the Nausicaans. We know the Nausicaans are about at the time of Strange New Worlds because I think there was an episode in Enterprise with Nausicaans against the Enterprise with Archer and so forth. So I think we know they're around at this particular time. So the Nausicaans, they're incredibly tall. They're kind of like big Wookiee kind of sized aliens with the big long hair. And the Nausicaans have always kind of been the henchmen of the galaxy, the kind of guns for hire. They're sort of mercenaries, they're pirates, the hired muscle. So it would be good to see how their society functions, and, you know, whether it's all based on kind of mercenary work, or even the Kzinti, which we actually heard of recently. I think Riker mentioned in an episode of Picard that he was having a bit of trouble with the Kzinti that were on Nepenthe.
Perimeter scans to max.
We've had a little trouble around here lately with the Kzinti.
They were established in the animated series, but we've never seen them in live action. I think there was a couple of shots in a Star Trek motion picture. I'm not sure which one it was. I think it might have been Star Trek 4 or Star Trek 6 maybe, where we saw cat-like races in a Federation uniform. But I have a feeling they were Caitians, not Kzinti, because both Caitians and Kzinti, they're both kind of cat-like, although I think the Kzinti have kind of like bat ears and bigger fangs or something, and it'd be good to see them in the show, although it would require some pretty extensive prosthetics, animatronic masks, or even potentially CG work.
But I always remember from a computer game in the 90s called Wing Commander. They did live action scenes here which featured Mark Hamill from Star Wars and Tom Wilson from Back to the Future, and they did animatronic cat masks for that computer game for a species called the Kilrathi, which were very, very similar to what the Caitians or the Kzinti would look like. If they could do it back in the 90s for a computer game, I'm sure they could do it in the 2020s for Strange New Worlds.
So I guess these are all things that producers have to take into consideration when they're working out what aliens and life forms they bring back into the show as to how much money it's going to cost on an episode-by-episode basis for doing full CG characters, or even creating an array of animatronic masks and so forth for actors to wear. We know the Andorians got a pretty big look in Enterprise. They've got a presence there. In the trailer coming up for season 3 of Discovery, we know there is an Andorian presence there. Apart from Jeffrey Combs' appearance as Jeffrey Combs' appearance as Shran in Enterprise as the Andorian in that. We've never really got too many Andorian characters that have been regular appearances in Star Trek series. So yeah, bring on an Andorian or two, maybe crew members on board the Enterprise perhaps. There are also a couple of races from DS9 and so forth, like the Bajorans and the Trill, but we've never kind of seen a first contact scenario. One thing I think we definitely need to do in Strange New Worlds is let's show races that have been established. I don't like it when you start throwing all these new races into the show. In Discovery and so forth, we've seen characters with big weird alien kind of fish heads and devil-looking officers on board the Enterprise, and these are races we've never seen before. Like, stop introducing these new aliens that we don't know about. There are so many great Star Trek aliens that haven't really been delved into before that really anchor the show in terms of the history to Star Trek. Stop introducing new life forms. Let's give more screen time to the races we already know. And let's just focus on giving more depth and more enrichment to the alien races that have been sorely denied screen time in the past on various different Star Trek shows. Let me know what your favourite Star Trek races are, what races you'd like to see on Strange New Worlds, who do you think the bad guys are going to be, who do you think you'd love to see as good guys, other Federation crewmen on board the Enterprise in races that we've seen before. Leave a comment in the comments section. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, and check out my Patreon page, my merchandise, all that sort of stuff. And I will see you guys next time for my next review.